south of Scruffy.
A year?
It's been a year, or maybe a little more than a year. I think we
Yeah.
actually, the end of December is
Some-
when we...
Yeah, somebody texted me and said, you and Rebecca promised you'd do another one in a year, so they held us to it.
Here we are. It's been a year too, hasn't it?
Oh, that was right before we did a job together. We went to Atlanta right after that and shot a Food Network gig that you art directed. It was a Super Bowl commercial, I think.
Yeah. Well, Charity was... I helped Charity out. But
Oh,
she
you
was the art
did?
director on it, yeah.
Yeah. And that was the last real shoot I remember doing too, because it all went COVID crazy right after that.
Well, we were actually in Maine
Oh, I forgot about
when
that.
everything started shutting down.
Yeah, we were shooting a sizzle reel in Maine,
Yeah.
going to see a bunch of psychics.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were shooting American Psychic, which I was being the host on for the
Yeah.
Sizzle, and in Maine. And I mean, so the beginning of last year, so I was on the podcast last time, I said, I was just in this great space. Everything's flowing, glowy. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be my year. It's all amazing. And I even said, which, I shouldn't have said this, but I'm like, I just feel invincible. And I feel like the universe is like, oh, challenge accepted. Let's see what can happen now. So 2020 steps in. And even American Psychic, all that stuff was heading in this cool direction. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to get to host this show and we're making a sizzle about something. And it's something that, I thought was a cool concept of traveling around visiting psychics. So we're up in Maine filming the sizzle when the world shuts down.
Yeah, I remember we were driving to the airport. It was me and Jill, Tennant, and the three of us were on our way to the airport. It was 5 a.m. And it had all just gotten real. The COVID stuff had just gotten real. And we were talking about it in the car. We're like, what's going on?
Are we going to be able to make it?
Yeah, or is this just the flu? Everybody's still in this kind of what is this thing? And then while we were up there for almost a week. We were in Portland, Maine for 4 or 5 days, I think. Maybe, 5 days or so. And it started just rolling in. Seattle's shutting down.
Yeah.
And then now it's starting to feel real. Everything's starting to, close in. The circle's getting closed. And then flying back from Portland, Maine, into Knoxville, we flew through LaGuardia. And LaGuardia, I've flown through that place 50 times, and it was a ghost town.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was crazy. It was just nobody there at all. We sat at a restaurant by ourselves, and everybody was like, what are y'all even doing?
Yeah,
traveling?
even the plane was nobody was on the plane on the back. I think that's when it really started to hit me.
That was the beginning of March.
Yeah, and then we came back, and while we were gone, everybody had cleared out all the shelves on the stores.
Yeah.
And everything.
We're selling toilet paper for $20 a roll.
Yeah, we had been kind of a little bit of a bubble up there. Maine, I think, had one case at the time while we were there.
Exactly.
And so feeling a little bit removed from reality, and then coming back to, oh, shit, what is happening? The world is shutting down while we're gone.
Do you remember that guy that overdosed and died on our floor in Maine when we were there? Do you remember that?
I forgot about that.
Is that not crazy? We were on our way back from lunch, and we're walking back to our hotel, and 10 fire trucks descend on our hotel, and they just park in the street, and ambulances and the paramedics are walking upstairs, and we're just going back for lunch to charge batteries and do stuff before we go and shoot in the afternoon. And we get up to the floor, and the paramedics are walking back towards the elevator, and they're like, no, he's gone. We're like, what the hell happened? And we talked to the people at the hotel. They were like, yeah, some guy.
It was on our floor.
It was on our floor. It was 5 doors down. Some dude overdosed and died. And the maids found him when they went to check him out at 2:00 to clean out his room. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that was...
I totally forgot about that. That was the least crazy thing probably happening in the midst of that COVID trip, the world shutting down.
Yeah. So that show, American Psychic, you went and visited a bunch of psychics in Maine,
so we
right?
brought Jill with us, to get readings from 3 different psychics, and it was pretty fascinating. She never had a reading before. I've had some psychic experience. We used to live with a psychic, so maybe we're familiar with these areas. But it was pretty fascinating to see how each of them read her and the different things they said and the similar things they said, and actually hung out with Jill last week, and she even brought it up, like some of the things that Marianne, one of the psychics, told her there. So
Yeah.
so the whole concept was cool. It's not the best year for a travel show to get picked up, I think, with COVID and everything.
Did
but
any of the psychic stuff come true?
she got a dog. Remember they kept talking about a dog?
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that's the power of persuasion too. Like if a psychic tells you you're going to get a dog, and then 6 months later you get a dog, like maybe they had something to do with it.
Well, I think. Okay, so I got a reading from that. Remember the one lady that we went in, and maybe this is a power of persuasion again, but like remember the one lady that we just walked in on off the street that wasn't part of the show?
No, she had like the psychic readings, tarot cards, $5
the
thing,
neon sign up,
by appointment only,
and she was like probably one of the most accurate late people, and like we just all I think you're the only one that didn't get a reading.
I did not get a reading,
but everyone else in the crew got a reading.
Yeah,
and one of the things she said, it's going to be super frustrating for you because your career won't do that well this year as you want it to be. And I was like, I'm not gonna listen to that. That's not going to be the thing. Of course, then we come back and it all
falls
apart. And the world's
apart.
like shutting down and everything's a mess. But at the time, I'm like, we're filming the show, and it's like it's going to be everything's moving and taking off. It's going to be great. But with Jill. And I think with psychics, it's just, I mean, one, they're reading the current energy. So, like, you can either choose to do the things that they're telling you to, and you can choose to, like, so I even think, like, as that she was going on, like, her energy was different by the time she got to, like, one psychic than the first one. Because
Jill's was?
Yeah, because, like, if somebody tells you something, then you're already in a different energy and different space where you're, like, you're encouraged in that
and
space.
And they're reading a different
forward.
thing.
So then they're reading, like, a different energy and different space. So, and then you can just choose what you do with it. Either you can move forward in that space, or you can move forward in a different space. I don't think that our future is set in stone. Like I think they just read the current energy.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's more appropriate to call them highly intuitive than it is maybe.
Well, what's the difference? And
I
you just
don't
like the word psychic?
I don't like the word psychic. I think it has weird connotations.
I actually agree. With the name American Psychic with the TV show, I tried to get them to change it to something else because I think psychic people are opposed to that word.
Yeah, they have a reaction to it.
Yeah,
and it can be positive or it can be negative. But it seems it's almost it's almost a word that is pie in the sky or just kind of makes you seem like you're easily gullible or something like that if you listen to one and you believe in one. But that's not, I think, what they really are selling. Like they may use it to market themselves, but I think what they are is just highly intuitive people that can read your energy and read what you need to hear more so than they are future tellers.
Yeah, and then like what I was saying, I think it's just like if you continue in this energy that you are right now, this is how things can play out.
Yeah.
But it may or may not. But it's like this is the way that energy is flowing.
Yes.
And so, but then if you try to make a different decision, then the energy is going to be different.
Yeah. It makes sense. What was the kind of the premise of the show? You were the host, right?
Yeah, I guess it was supposed to be like the show diners, drives, and dives.
Yeah, something like that.
So like where you just go to 3 different ones, and just basically you're just seeing like, are there good psychics? Are there bad psychics? Are there, like, and I think like with any profession, there's going to be people that are really good at their job and people that aren't as good at their job. And so just to kind of see how it goes, have some kind of like maybe transformation in that space, especially somebody that's never been to one before. And if they're reading something that is close to you, because I think like, I've had quite a few readings from intuitives or psychics or whatever. And there's times where like they can hit you in this space where like, it's like they're reading your soul and maybe it's not they're telling you the future, but they're just maybe shining a light on who you are. And it hits you in a certain way that makes you feel very known. And so that can be a transformative space for people. Yeah. So I think that Jill did have that in that moment. Like I think with Marianne, the one that told her she's going to get a dog. I think
was she the one that threw the bones?
No, the
raccoon penis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think she was probably the least like
Viable, credible.
she told the least like information that was like sustainable. Like, like one of them was talking specifics about like someone's parents. Oh, then remember the last lady, like she was reading
Somebody else
Leslie,
in the room.
somebody else, yeah. And she actually did. She read something on you too about your car wreck or something.
I remember operating the camera and being like, "Oh man, this is hurting right now." Yeah, I forget it was a car accident or like some. I forget what it was.
Yeah,
it's like I see some trees and I see you driving through some trees.
So I actually think I maybe manifested that because before we went, I wrote down a list of things I wanted to happen, like while we were on the trip, and one of them was somebody off camera gets a reading. So then that whole last reading, I felt was horrible because I'm sitting next to Leslie off camera in the other room, and the girl's like trying to read Jill, and Jill's like, no.
Leslie's like crying.
Leslie's like, this is about my dad. He just had a heart attack. This is like everything is hitting her. And I felt so bad for the girl, the psychic girl. She was like a younger girl. And she was like, oh no. I'm like, I think I actually made this happen because I wrote it down. Now it's like manifested out in the world. It's
good television too.
But yeah, they made better television. That's why I wrote it down.
Have you seen any psychics since you got back?
Oh, I guess that's been a year. Probably in the last year. I haven't seen any in person, but I do have. I was in New York.
Okay.
This is gonna be a weird story. Okay. In October, and this is a weird story.
That's why we're here.
And I'm just gonna own it. I'm super weird. This is the thing. This is maybe the thing I've learned this last year is just to embrace my like weirdness. But so I, controversially went to New York in October just to go.
Well, just
to go.
Why was it controversial?
Because traveling during COVID and
gotcha. Okay.
But I usually go to New York a few times a year, and I was just really like itching to go. I had to get out of the town and do something, so I went. I'm just by myself, and and the city's been super traumatized, and so it's very weird and very different than it normally is. And but I mean, it's still like October. It was beautiful. The weather was beautiful. So I just spent like one whole day just walking around because a lot of places you can't even go inside. I mean, I think they had just opened indoor seating, and you had to like sign a waiver even to eat inside. And so I'm by myself, and I walked like 13 miles or something that day. Just walked around the city.
Manhattan.
Mostly like West Village, like that kind of area. And so, like, I mean, I have my own like intuitive abilities and things, and like space, and like my own like world I live in this kind of world. So I'm walking. I'm like, man, I really just want to find some place that I can get some good soup, that I can have a glass of wine, and that I can sit down and charge my phone somewhere. And so then I start walking. I feel like turn right. So like turn right. Then I feel like turn left.
Just like magnetic energy.
I can just feel like I can just follow the energy where to go, and I end up at this like a little Italian restaurant with like these little round booths, and there's like a plug right there, and they had some kind of soup on the special, and I got a glass of wine. So it was like all the things, and this is just like how I live my life. I just kind of like follow the energy. And so then I leave. I'm like, okay, I don't have anything to do. I'm like, all right, just take me wherever you want to take me. Like I just tell my intuition or soul or whatever, like where do you want to do? Let's go to let's do that. So I start feeling like walk this way, and I get to like the like city bikes you can ride.
Yeah. And put your credit card in, you pull a bike out of the stall.
Yeah, and I'm like, fuck no, I'm not riding those.
You didn't do it?
No. I don't know. I'm like, I'm not prepared to ride a bike through Manhattan. Like it's just I've seen way too many people get hit. Like on bikes.
Do you know Mark Lewis?
Yes. Did he get hit on a bike?
He about got murked crossing we were on 2nd Avenue right in the bike lane. We were riding uptown in 2nd Avenue, and he rode across on a red light, and this car just about wiped him out. And I was like, it was the scariest thing I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen, not people I've known, but multiple people get hit by bikes. So I'm like, tell myself, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, let's, whatever, like
something safer.
Yeah. So then I start like find like and I end up at this like little psychic space, and I'm like, I've probably passed like 20 psychics walking around like this New York that day, walking 13 miles, and like I get to this one, and I'm like, oh, I don't really feel like visiting a psychic. This is not what I want to do. So I'm like arguing myself basically, like, and I keep feeling like go in. So I go in, and I'm just like super impatient. I'm like, oh, she's like with somebody, so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna leave. And every time I get up to leave, I feel like, just wait.
Gotta stay.
Just wait. There's like, there's information that you need to know. So finally she leaves, and I sit down with her. And
her client leaves.
Her client leaves.
And then you come.
And I
it's
come
your
and
turn.
sit down. And and now I'm like, maybe I don't want to share the stuff that she told me, but
you don't have to if you don't want to.
But it was like, I mean, we're like friends now.
You and the psychic?
Yeah, like
you talk?
we text, we talk, we became friends. She's besties. We might go on a trip together. I don't know.
Is she checking up on her work? Like, hey, did this happen?
She's like super caring and super like, so it's more like instead of telling me the future, I think she's telling me more like, hey, this is the reason that you do this thing. This is the reason you're having this, because you have this trauma from your childhood. So there's the reason that you play this out in relationships. Yeah. So it was more like almost a psychic therapist, almost like she could like, I did sit down and I was like, man, I don't know if I even told her anything, honestly. I think I just sat down and she started like telling me all this stuff.
I think that's where it's very useful for me, when it's less about here are the things that are going to happen to you if you behave this way. It's more of identifying things that, in a therapy kind of way, identifying things you already knew, right, and just kind of telling you how they play out, right, because they've seen it before and they've, in an unbiased way, taken note of it.
Right. And sometimes it's hard to see the stuff in yourself. I mean, a lot of times it's hard to see the stuff in yourself. And so I think, I wasn't expecting, I think I paid her like $10 or something. I don't know. And so I wasn't like expecting any like major thing. And, but it did really like in that moment shift the way I had saw my relationship. Like it just, really? It was the thing I needed to hear. And so it had real life like consequence or and
I don't implications.
I don't think like my soul or whatever would have like led me to some place just to get like a like made me wait and like go through this try to ride a city bike.
Does that ever get you in trouble though? Like just kind of going where the flow feels right?
It's always right.
It's always right.
It's always right.
It never gets you in trouble. You're better than me because
it's not. I mean,
my baser instincts kick in.
I've learned to. I mean, not all. I guess there's sometimes I can think that sometimes my intuition is really fear, and so that's a very big difference thing. So I'm learning the way that like fear shows up is like feels one way, and the way that my intuition is just feels like this like slow like this nudging guidance kind of thing. Sometimes it's more of a in my face guidance.
So they're delineated for you? Like you can tell when you're behaving out of fear or when you're behaving out of desire or some kind of...
I've spent like, so I think everybody's life, all my life, you know, we're basically taught to listen to everybody outside yourself. You're listen to your parents, listen to everybody outside of you about like who you are, where you should be doing, and so like the last couple of years, I've really tried to learn to listen to myself and like really like hone that ability and hone that skill. And so, I mean, I guess when you're like, is it always right? I mean, what's right and what's wrong, you know, like it could, but it always leads me somewhere that feels like, okay, like now I'm at a psychic and now this thing's happened. So I'm like, was that right? I don't know. But it was entertaining and it was, now I have a friend and I got some helpful information out of it. So, but I've just like, I've learned that's what works for me. Like that's the best space for me is just
takes a lot of trust though. You have to
it's so fucking hard. Like it's so hard to trust ourselves more than outside of everybody else, especially when other people are telling you something different.
Yeah.
So
what's that? Like, do you ever have that creep in where you're like, oh man, maybe they're right?
So I think like when I was talking about I'm just owning that I'm weird, like I really am. Like I just really like view the world a different way than I think most people do. Like I really see the world a different way. And I think for most of my life, I've thought like I need to function like everybody else and see that like everybody else. So it's been a lot for me. And I think I've spent a lot this last year, like trying to be like, it's like, it's not a liability. It's actually like, it's a reason that I'm here. It's like the reason, like,
what's not a liability?
Like I think I've always viewed that I like viewed the world differently and like wanted to live like outside the space and like understand things differently, or it's like it's just see the world. I mean, and maybe everybody feels this way. But I've had people be like, I don't know anybody else that views the world the way you do. So I always thought that was a liability, like that I was just going to ruin my life if I functioned in the way that you wanted to, or that you felt like you should. It was like my natural desire. Your resting then state. I would like ruin my life because it's so different than everyone else's. So really just in the last few months, honestly, like I've been like, oh, I'm not going to ruin my life. This is like there's a reason I'm this way. Yeah. It's not like, oh, I have to just clean myself up and get in the box and do the thing. And it's interesting. And so I'm learning right now.
But it is trust, right?
It's huge. It's huge trust. It's trusting yourself.
I feel like people don't trust themselves that much.
We're not conditioned to trust ourselves. We're conditioned to trust everybody else's input, everyone else's voice, everyone else's thing over ourselves.
I forget if we talked about the classrooms last time you were here, but that was when I lived with Bobby Drennan. That was one of the things that we talked about a lot was your classrooms, and you're on this path through your life, and along this path you go into certain classrooms, and you have to learn something from there. You have to whether it's not caring what your parents think or not caring what people you don't even know think, but you got to get it and you got to understand, and you have to learn that lesson, and then you get to move on to the next classroom, which is the next thing, not caring what your boss thinks or whatever it is, but you don't get to leave until you learn the lesson. You're stuck learning the lesson until you get it, and then you're on to a new one.
Yeah. I actually really believe that we are born knowing who we are, but then it's like the world just tells us that we don't know who we are. And then like we're constantly like just out of good, like, because we think this is helpful, like our parents tell us like this is who you should be, or this is the thing, or they are like we pick up their fears, or in society
pick up your parents' fears.
We just like understand as kids like what they're afraid of or like what they're trying to do, and then it just is a natural space. But I think if we can go back to that like childhood state, then we remember more like who we really are and like why we're here and like what we wanted to be doing.
A beginner's mind, like probably the best thing we can do for ourselves is not know anything. Not judge anything. Let it happen.
And just let ourselves be who we are, like naturally, instead of constantly like trying to shift it and tell us it's wrong. And like, I mean, if we're good at something or if we do something differently, like I really believe that there's a reason why. Like that's like our natural bent, and that's like the space that the universe will like open up for us because there's a reason that you're that way. It's not like by mistake. It's not like.
I think a lot of people wish they could operate in that manner. I think people care too much about what other people think. What other people think is none of your business. I've always been a big believer in that.
It's not easy to like stop caring what people think at all. I mean, I still care what people think for sure. But I've just been learning more to care what I think and like care what I feel and care what I love instead of.
What's been the thing that you've been into most since we worked together last March, like in earnest?
Yeah.
What's it been looking like?
So, I mean, this year, like I was saying, it hasn't quite panned out like I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to start a new business this year. I thought.
What kind of business?
I didn't even fully know. That was my plan. 2020, start a new business. I'd sold the Hive 2019, so I thought 2020 I was going to take some time, start a new business, and then it just wasn't a great year to start a new business. Like I guess there could have been some businesses I could have started, but it just didn't pan out. Then I was doing a little bit of production, then development stuff with Pop Biz, which I do really enjoy. But I've still been like kind of like trying to like find my thing, so to speak. And here's like the
Since the hive shift, is that
I
kind
think
of
all my life, really.
Yeah.
But so here's the interesting thing about me. Like, I think I've been like almost obsessed with like finding my thing, because I can like see other people and see like, okay, this is your thing, or like I get so excited about somebody that's like really like good at something, and so recently I actually have learned. I think my thing is seeing other people's things. Does this even make sense? Are you following me?
I get it, but how does that manifest itself?
Okay, so this is interesting. So, I mean, for a long time, I'm like, if I could do anything, I think this is a good question to ask. If you could do anything and get paid for it, or, like, what would it be? Mm-hmm. And my answer was always like, well, two things. I'm like, one, I want to just get paid for being myself. That's a good like answer, is it not?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and then
that's the answer.
Two, like I want to be like a cheerleader basically for like people that are like artists and makers and like people are like starting businesses. Mm-hmm. Like, it just nothing gets me more excited than people like following their passion and doing their thing and like being successful at it. And I'm like, oh, you should, like, this is why you're here.
Yeah.
But so like in that space of me always seeing other people and getting excited, I'm like, what does that look like? So I was talking to a friend recently about all this, and I'm like, I just feel like I can help people, really. I can help people like lean into these spaces and see what they are. I feel like we're having this almost like global shift from, like, this is one of the things that COVID is causing, like this global shift from places that don't fulfill us as much. Like, they're just going to be like super hard. Like the places that our souls want to be more aligned with are
going to be easier to find our way to, or harder?
No, easier to find our way in that space, but like we're just going to be much more uncomfortable in places that aren't aligned with our soul. And so like you can already see it. Like some people.
And you
like,
think COVID and like isolation has something to or caused that?
I think it's caused like some kind of global like thing where we've had to like look more inward, and more people are like following their passions and doing some like side projects or side hustles, and maybe not completely like leaving their job and doing other things, but some people are like, even a lot more businesses that are already opening up. I was talking to Thomas Boyd over the summer, and he's like, all my spaces are rented out. Like, he's like, this is a weird time for people to want to be opening businesses, but I think it just made people stop and look. And so I think just in
people had time to do that too. People had to stop and reset a little bit.
We were forced, really. It wasn't even just like
a forced reset. You hear that, and a lot of people actioned out of it and actually said, this is what I've been meaning to do. I've been in the rat race. Now I don't have a choice to do what I've been doing. Yeah. Time to really lean into the thing that I want to do. I feel you there. I've watched some pretty special people open some businesses during COVID, things that you wouldn't think would. Zach Roscop comes to mind, like open a bar, open the Knox Brew Hub during COVID.
Not a great year to open a bar.
Nope,
especially
terrible
the
year
city
for
kept
hospitality.
Shutting them down.
Yeah, but you know what? He did it, and he's killing it.
Yeah, I love Zach. And he's
me
awesome
too.
at that space.
Yeah, and that's just kind of that to me is a microcosm of that idea. Yeah. Of like, shit, my bread and butter's done. Like, I got to do something. Yeah. Here, what do I want to do? Let me take inventory of that. Okay, here we go.
And
action.
I even think the people that didn't even lose their job, but maybe they came home and it was just slower, and then suddenly like this is just my own like space of feeling this, but I just feel like all those spaces that if they're not aligned with what your soul wants to do, it's just going to feel a lot more like you're pushing up against a wall. Like, it's just gonna be harder. So like places you could have been in before and been fine, suddenly they just feel like there's this global shift of like wanting to like realign with like why we're here and what we're wanting to do.
I wonder if it has anything to do with, okay, I'll go work a job that kind of sucks, and then I'll come back to real life, but still be able to go out and hang out with my friends and do this kind of thing. And that'll be the good part of my life, right? But that goes away. And now you don't have the good part of your life
That's your
anymore.
whole life.
Yeah. So it's like, well, I need to make my day-to-day a little more enjoyable. Maybe that's the...
And a lot of people then were home, and some people that's good. Some people it's like, then they're away from other people. And so... But so back to like what I was saying. So I just like there's there's a space in me that just, like, even just talking about Zach, like, it just lights me up. Like, I just get super excited about, like, him doing that, and I'm proud of him, and I want to be like, oh man, this is awesome. You did a great job. Like, it just, like, it just is. Like, it just is who I am. And it's the thing that gives me goosebumps. It's the thing that I get excited about. It's the thing I want to talk about. And I mean, even like opening the Hive, like my original desire with that was like creating a space for people to have businesses in there. And then...
And you could be a cheerleader for them.
And then it grew into people wanting to do events there. And then a lot of people's businesses even came through there. Even like Brian's, like, I mean, Pop Fizz, like we rented that space, you know, to get connected with HGTV. And it's like that provided a lot of space, you know.
Yeah.
So a lot of... people have come to me and be like, I did my first workshop there. I did my, you know, whatever. Yeah. And so, like, I love that thing. So this last week, I was talking to a friend about this, and she's like, you should just, like, lean into that space and just see what that looks like. And she's like, maybe just ask, like, 5 people, like, that maybe are in, like, this, it doesn't even really matter where you're at. But just ask me, like, hey, can I meet with you, have a conversation, and just see what comes out of it. So last week I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I asked 5 people if I could have coffee with them, and all 5 said yes. And some of them I told them what was going on. Some of them I didn't, and just wanted to see like what would happen. And really all it is just like looking at somebody, seeing their thing. Like like I said, I have like some intuitive abilities, and so I'm a psychic.
Yeah, it sounds very psychic to me.
I'm a psychic. I would tell you what to do, what your future holds. But just sitting in that space with them, and some crazy ass stuff happened like in this thing. So I met with this guy, and he's kind of going through a space with like his marriage, all this stuff. It's going on here. I'm not going to get his personal life, but like he's had this desire to pursue music forever, for always. And so we met with on Tuesday. On Thursday, he moves to Nashville. And he's like, I've been thinking about doing this for 6 years. And then like after
he just did it?
Well, yeah, like we had this conversation, and I'm like, this is why you're here. Like I just was able to like pump him up in this space to be like, this is the thing
you made it fire.
You should be doing. And so I mean, so every, but not, I didn't even know all the people. So I feel like I'm getting like.
So you met with 5 people, and
sorry, I'm getting
2 of them you didn't know? One of them you didn't know?
So one, I didn't even know what he looked like. I didn't know him at all.
Really?
And then one I'd met like a couple times, but I didn't like know personally. So it's just really cool. Like so I'd be like, Ben, so what's your story?
Yeah.
So what's your story, Ben?
My story?
Yeah. Let's just start tell me, and let's do a session right now. See how it goes.
We're at my house. Got a family inside. Let's see. Grew up here. Work in production. Let's see. That's what I got.
Okay. So what? I mean, I feel like there's some different things. Like as a kid, what did you want to do? Like growing up,
I wanted to play baseball for the Atlanta Braves.
Always.
Yeah, I wanted to be the shortstop for the Atlanta Braves. Yeah.
How's that working out for you?
Man, I was left-handed from the get-go, so it was no good, man. It was no good.
Well, so I feel like everybody has like something that their soul wants to do here, and it can be specifically like music, or it could be like somebody's like, I just want to tell good stories about people. Like, I'm going to tell stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And like and some, you know, another girl, her or this guy that I met with, I didn't know, like his whole thing was like just like, and Susie started talking, I was like, your thing's community. Like he just wants to build communities. And so I think there's all these places like that we like that. I just think each person's soul almost has like this song it wants to sing. And when we're like lined in that space, so it doesn't have to be that's necessarily your job you're doing. Like you can be doing that on the side, and then it fulfills this other place for you.
So are you tuning up the band to get the soul to sing a little bit? Is that the idea? Maybe
soul to sing isn't the right thing, but I don't know. I just want to like lean into this space.
What's your Enneagram? Do you know?
I'm a 7.
You are? What's that?
The fun one. I don't know.
I'm a helper. Number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's what I keep testing as, every time I do it. Somebody told me there was what was it? A connector superpower or something like that in the Malcolm Gladwell lore. And that's me. I identify as a 2.
2.
Please, yeah. But don't you have a wing too? Like, aren't you closer to one than you are the other? I'm not big on the Enneagram thing.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to gravitate towards one side or the other of your number.
Mine would probably be a 7 wing 8, but I'm a pretty true 7.
The fun one.
The fun one. The enthusiast, I think it is.
Yeah.
7s love 7s, so
there you go.
This is my thing. This is why my whole Instagram is photos of me.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, the thing that we were talking about with the intuitives that we talked to, like for them to be able to identify things in yourself that you already knew inherently, but you've never done anything about.
So the thing I keep hearing about you is very interesting because I don't know how this plays out, but I keep hearing he wants to be heard.
Who?
You.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I've got a podcast.
But you're talking in a podcast right now. So there's some, which just seems like.
That's probably right. I mean, it checks out.
But you want your voice to be heard. So, but you pursued acting too, right?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
So, like, there's some space in you that you want your voice to be heard. So maybe you feel like you have a message that you want to share.
Maybe.
Like.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I'll totally buy that.
No, that's the thing I just keep hearing about, that you want to be heard. So I just feel like there's like some space that you feel like you have a message to share with the world, and maybe that looks like whatever, like this, which you're doing on the podcast, like you're feeling that space in you. And I feel like since you've started this podcast, this is the area that you're lit up the most in.
Yeah.
Like you really are. Like you're super energized by it. You're super engaged here.
Sure.
Like so.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fun.
It's fulfilling that thing. It's fulfilling that thing in you.
I don't have to do it.
Right. And so like that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily that like that you have to like leave your job and do something full time.
Right.
But like if you can like filter that desire that you have through like whatever you do. So even if it isn't work, whatever, like there you have this desire to be heard. You have some message that needs to be shared.
I don't know what it is.
Well,
I think I need some help identifying the message, Rebecca.
I think you do know what it is.
I don't think I do. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
Maybe it's not a specific message. Maybe it's just your voice needs to be heard. Like, and
sounds like the asshole at the bar yelling at 2:00 in the morning.
No, because the thing I love about you, Ben, is like you just are. It's actually the opposite too. You hear people very well. Like, I mean, we've had off microphone. We've had good conversations. Sure. Like at like the freelancer party or whatever. Like I've sat down. That's the first time I talked to you about being in a cult. Like or about my divorce or different things. So I think like you're super empathetic and you're super like good in those spaces.
Try to be.
But the thing I just keep hearing is like he wants to be heard. So I think there's some space like pursuing acting, doing this, like you want to be heard. So you just
the acting thing though turned into like behind the camera stuff.
Right.
And that became telling other people's stories or telling other stories that weren't necessarily mine.
Right.
So maybe that's part of it.
Well, maybe like you had to do this because you were behind the camera, so you just needed a space for your voice to be heard.
I'll buy it.
And
I still don't have a reason.
And you don't have to have a reason.
Yeah.
It's just that's the thing that's fulfilling something in you. So like
part of it's like your thing of getting excited about other people and wanting to prop other people up too, and also just being curious about other people's stories. That's the part of like listening and hearing too, is that everybody has some pretty amazing stuff back there if you give them a chance to tell it. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's me providing my guests the thing that
for them to be heard.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you really are good at both. Like you're a great interviewer and you're great at providing space for someone else to which if you even think of like Oprah, like her thing is she gives space for other people to tell their stories.
Sure.
So like it's just but she's the thing,
Yeah.
So,
and that's like the ego part of it that it's kind of tough to like get out of the way.
You don't need to be
not let it be about you, but let it be about somebody else.
It's okay if it's about you though, because it's your thing.
I know.
Your thing
I
is
feel like
that's
selfish. I feel for some reason I feel like that's a selfish way to approach things, and that might be a hang up I've got.
But that's the thing with like, I've noticed like the thing that we like treasure the most, or the thing that we feel like is like our thing. It's actually a lot of times the thing that's hardest for us to like be okay with. It's the hardest thing because the thing that comes like most natural to us is for some reason we don't value as much. We value the things we have to work really hard for. But like the things that come natural to us are like the reasons that we're here. Like they're our gifts.
Yeah.
And so like, and also like sometimes those like big dreams or desires that we have a hard time like wanting to birth them or let them out into the world because we're like afraid like if they fail, then we won't have that dream anymore. But so then we don't even want to like let it go a little bit to like let it out there and
I gotcha.
and be the thing, and so we just hold on to it or downplay it, or like you're saying, try to like not be ego about it. But like if it's your thing, man, let it be your thing. Like just own it. Like it's who you are. So you don't need to feel bad about it. It's like really a gift to the world that you have.
Yeah, there's just some kind of guilt with like a spotlight, like me thing. I don't know what it is. I've always felt bad about. I don't know. Shining the light on other people to me is much more exciting.
Well, I think we can feel, I think, people can make us feel guilty about taking the spotlight or being the center of attention or whatever. And that can come from society, your parents, other kids in school, whatever. But don't feel bad about that. Like really, like somebody has to be in the spotlight. Somebody has to like, and just
what was it like when you were a kid though? Were you introverted, kind of didn't want to be in the spotlight, or were you more wanted to be the center of attention?
I was pretty quiet as a kid. I was just in my head most of the time.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you're still kind of there now.
Yeah.
Like you let it be known how you feel, but I know it's like a duck. There's like a million miles an hour under the water. I know that's going on.
There's always like 5 things going on in my head. There's like a song playing in the background. There's like something I'm trying to figure out over here. There's a conversation that I had with somebody else, and then like whatever the actual thought is.
But you didn't have the everybody look at me thing going on?
I don't think I did. I think I was pretty happy just to but I feel like I have it more now.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
you seem comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I
mean, like I said, all my Instagram photos are basically of myself. People make fun of me. I'm like, my kids have their own Instagram. They can post their own photos. I don't know. You can follow them if you want to see them.
So is that weird? Do you get some pushback of like, look at this narcissist over here just posting photos of herself all the time?
I mean, it's social media. What are we like?
It's shameless self-promotion,
what are you
right?
supposed to post on there? Like,
yeah.
I think it's.
But that gets back into the like other people very really or practically impacting your life. If you don't want to post that selfie because you worry that people.
Yeah, and I think like I've really since leaving the cult. If we want to get back on that subject, and all that stuff would have been super like you're saying, like you need to think about everybody else first. Like loving yourself was wrong. And so like now I've been like the last few years really trying to just love myself. And what does that look like to love myself? And what is it okay to like myself? It's okay to like the way I look. Like, is that okay? Like, like we almost as a society, like if you like the way you look, people are like, shh. And then if you don't like if you don't like the way you look, also that's bad. Like you have to kind of like pretend like you don't like the way you look.
I think that's more accepted now.
Right.
Is being insecure and not being confident in your yourself and your body and all that. It's like you get shamed for being too happy or too proud of who you are, but it's okay to
and not that I'm like 100% all the time feel great about myself, because I don't. I mean, I'm insecure a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm still not going to post selfies of myself.
Do you think that you overcorrected from being sheltered and not being able to love yourself to loving yourself too much?
Can you love yourself too much?
I don't think so.
I think that's just like a lie we've been fed, that like that I mean, I'm not harming anybody. If
Right.
people don't want to see it, they could just unfollow me. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. Do you get bummed out about that when people aren't digging what you're putting down? Don't care.
I don't like look at my. I mean, I don't have a lot of followers. I don't have like,
Posting ghost.
I mean, it just
Yeah. I wonder when you like break free from like this feeling of not feeling like you're okay to show that you love yourself. Like once you're free of that, is there a way that you can over-index towards it?
Well, so like I found this photo of me like at 20 at the beach, and I'm in the cold, and I have like a one piece on and like shorts, and like 20, like but I have like a banging body, and I'm like this like little like
shoulders up,
like
feeling super insecure,
like shorts
about
down
everything.
to my whatever, and then like I like look at this photo of me from last year, like wearing like a string bikini at the beach or whatever, and I'm like this is.
I like her better.
Yeah,
I like the new girl.
Who cares? Like it's whatever. But I don't know. Life's short, so post it. Don't post it. Wear the bikini.
Yeah,
it's just enjoy.
So what are you gonna do? I feel like you've learned a lot from these intuitive types that they've used their audience or their clients to kind of be able to affect change in people, and it seems like you've kind of picked up on some of that.
Yeah, I think
in this session we've had here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to pay you for.
I think we should bring Sam over to see what his thing is.
Are you accidentally reading Sam in the room?
I'm going to try to tune into him in a minute. What was the question?
Do you
I
feel
like I have like, I mean, I think everybody, maybe I said this last time too, like has intuitive abilities. It's just like learning to trust them or learning to tune into it. So I think I did already, but I didn't know how to use them or what that was like or how to trust it. So I kind of went on this little bit of a journey of like interacting with different psychics and healers and things. More so as I look back now, almost like this training I did for myself. I would go to somebody and like I would just like understand what they were doing without having them to have to explain it to me or whatever. I just started to like understand how to read energy and what that looks like. And I know when I say that, like that doesn't probably make a ton of sense, but sometimes I just I like literally will see things in energy. Like I can see like if there's two people sitting next to each other, I can like almost see like how their energy is.
Do you think some of it's learned? Like you see these kinds of, call them auras or like energy archetypes kind of play out, and then you just kind of reference back and say, oh, this is this kind of person, or this person has these tendencies.
Probably.
Or do you think it's nature versus nurture? Like not necessarily you learned this type, because you're putting people in boxes at that point too.
Yeah, mostly I think I just pick up what the person's standing in front of me. Like I'll just either hear something or see something, and sometimes I won't exactly even know what that means. But and I'm not like, I don't go around like reading everybody. Usually it's just some kind of helpful information that comes out or whatever. I'm not like, I couldn't like tell you like your future or tell like it's not or give you a tarot reading. Like I couldn't do any of that. I mean, maybe I could. I don't know. That's not my desire.
Right. But on energy cues.
Yeah. Or I can sometimes see like, so the guy that I was talking about, that the thing was community.
The musician or the community guy.
Yeah. So this is a guy that I had never met before, and he sits down and he starts talking, and he's telling me something. He's telling me a story, and he says community, and Susie says the word community, like it like hits me.
Just keeps like shocking you every time he says it.
Space, and I'm like, so then he says something, and I'm like, well, he's like telling me all these different communities he's been in, and I'm like, well, what's your community now? And he's like, well, just my wife and my kids, and I'm like, well, you don't have like one. You don't have another one outside of that. And so anyways. Another
community outside of the family?
Yeah, like, and then I kept seeing him almost with like one arm, because he was like, he wasn't investing in community. He didn't have this part of this community. I'm like, this is just who you are. So if you don't have like a.
What do you mean? One arm was like.
I just saw him like, it was almost like without being in a community. Like I saw this visual of him without being in community. Like he was like
Like half his body didn't work?
Like he was like without a limb because it was
Gotcha.
like because a part of who he wasn't happening.
Gotcha.
And so who he is like building communities and doing this thing, but because after he had started having kids, he invested all his time into that, and he was no longer investing in building communities. So and he felt guilty about like how much he felt. It's so weird that we feel guilty about the thing that we love. But so he felt guilty about like how much time in his life he had spent into investing in communities, and how he felt like maybe he's like loved it too much, and it was this thing. So he like almost was like sacrificing it to take care of his family. But like the thing that I saw when I was looking at him was this is actually hurting you because you're not being fulfilled in the space, and you're not like doing who you are. Like it's making. I'm gonna start talking in energy again. So it's like he was like almost like going toward it in this way because he wasn't like a whole person, because he wasn't doing the thing he was supposed to do. So it was like little things. I was like, well, let's just lean into that space, and like how can you like create a community like one night a week, start a thing. And so he was like super excited and like left and put something on the calendar. But and I think that will flow into other parts of his life. So maybe it will build into something he gets paid for. I don't know, but like.
So what do these folks that you met up with think? Like, this woman I don't know just took me out to lunch or dinner or whatever, coffee.
Just found him on Tinder.
That works too.
Just joking.
and then now, you know, I just got an hour and a half like therapy.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean,
what does that do for their
somebody
psyche?
started crying during it. She was like, she was like, something's happening. And then she's like, I feel like I've been like rebirthed. And like laughed and like told her friends, wanted to. So, I mean, everybody I feel like I met with has texted me afterwards or been super excited about it and or done steps to move things forward in whatever their thing was, you know? So I don't know what's happening. I don't know what this is going to turn into.
It sounds like you're
I don't know.
That's unlocking a bunch of people's.
It's really, really fun. Yeah. And like I get super excited about it. Yeah, like just to like really just reminding people, like being a mirror, be like, hey, remember this person?
Yeah.
You forgot them. Like, and it happened to be like all the people that I met with were in either places where they felt stuck, or like were in some transition place, or they needed to,
or don't feel heard.
Yeah, don't feel heard, or and. So is this a problem in your marriage also?
No.
Do we want to talk about this?
No, Sarah hears me. I'll tell you that right now. she doesn't like it, but she listens.
Make sure you're.
Yeah.
Well, you're just like, never mind. So, what was I saying? But I don't know. So I'm like, I don't know what this is. But my whole thing is just telling people like, let's lean into that space a little bit and just see what happens, and the universe will like open up for you. Like somebody. I don't want to say that on somebody you all know, so I'm not going to talk about. But like, you know, they got a meeting with somebody after the meeting, because I was like, just lean into the space and just and then
like something good career wise.
Yeah, yeah. So I think so for myself, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just leaning in a little bit and be like, this feels really good. And like all last week, I was like so lit up in the space that I hadn't been in a long time, because I'm like using the thing that I'm good at, like this thing where I can like see people and like be a mirror for them and get super excited about them being in space and being this cheerleader, like, this is why you're here, you should go and do it, like super excited, you know.
Have any of them called you back and said, hey, can we do that again? That was really helpful.
I've gotten text messages from multiple of them asking me like the next step, or like, hey, I'm now the guy that's in Nashville, he's like, I'm running out of money now, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, not a life coach. I'm just, this is the first step. But so, I mean, do you have any thoughts for me? Like, can this be a thing? I don't know if I can get paid for this or not, but it feels like it's super exciting that it's like, at least a fun.
I mean, why not? I don't think you need to be, you know, you don't need to have any letters after your name to just give people good advice. Just psychic. PSY. Is that right? No, sure. I mean, I think if people genuinely value what you're putting down, then they're going to buy it, right? And come back. Of course, we're no longer in, it's a meritocracy out here. It's like what works, I'll go towards it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think you should do it.
Yeah, I don't know what doing it is, but right now I'm just keep meeting with people.
A neon sign right up there. It says, palm readings $5.
Just come have a conversation with me. Have coffee with me.
I think you should do it.
Yeah. So
I definitely think you should.
I have a couple people this week I'm gonna meet with too. Because other people have said, I want you to meet with my friend so and so. I want you. So
I think what people want more than anything is to be happy. And I think that people don't give themselves, in a lot of cases, permission to be happy, but also people aren't necessarily willing to do the work. And like you look at, BetterHelp, for instance, is an online therapy resource that's come up for people. And COVID, it's like through the roof. People are doing it like crazy. And I forget what they're selling. Happiness is ultimately what they're selling. And people want it. People seek it. People that aren't happy will crave it. They don't think they deserve it, and it's a lot of hard work. And it takes kind of both of those pieces, I think. And then once that's in there, then it's sustainability and sustaining it. I think you got it. I think that's probably what people see in you, that they probably envy, maybe even resent you for, but also see as something that they wish that they themselves had, and that if you could glean a little bit, it'd help them.
Well, yeah, and I want, just think how, our world would be if everybody was doing the thing that fulfills their soul. It feels good. Just be a better place.
Yeah, it would be. So what is it? Is it money? Is it work? Is that what keeps people from doing it? Is it what keeps people bathing in the ease of misery?
I think we're told that it has to be harder than it is. I think we're told, told by, I don't know, society or whatever, this collective thing, that there's a certain way things need to play out. You go to school, you do this, and then you get this. And then, more and more people are doing, following the thing, and it just doesn't feel good. It just isn't the thing they wanted. Or they create this whole, life, and they're it doesn't feel right. And so, I think it's just, the thing we talked about at the beginning is, listening to ourselves. And so, if early on we could listen to ourselves and who we are, I think we're already equipped to do the thing we're here to do. We're just born equipped to do the thing we're here to do, and so we don't need any necessarily extra training. You disagree?
No, I just think it's interesting that we fall against our nature.
We really prize the things that are hard, that we have to work hard for. Right? Don't you prize the thing, the things you have to work really hard for, are the things you prize, and the things that come naturally and easy for you. We don't look at those things, right? Or the things that the girl that wants to tell stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, you'd be well, that seems so. That's a very specific thing, but also that can show up in multiple ways, So, but you might just want to overlook that and not even think that's a thing. But there's a reason that she has a desire to do that. There's a reason that that's written on her. There's a reason that that wants to come out. And
yeah, it's so interesting that we strive for those things that we don't have, or that we don't have mastery of. And those are the things that we value as important to us when we can achieve them. But the things that are super easy and come naturally to us, that are probably great things, and that other people wish they could do in a big way, and they can't, and they never will be able to, but you can do it with ease.
Because it's your thing.
Yeah, because it's your thing, but it's a throwaway for you, because
but I feel
I got that.
I feel that actually, more and more, that will be the space that we find success in. When we just lean into the thing that is, and not just the thing that's just easy to us, but also the thing that lights us up. It's usually it goes hand in hand, but we just so often just discount it and are okay, well, that's just so easy. It can't be the thing. It can't be that easy. And so I just feel I mean, the thing I keep seeing over and over again this week is like whenever people have leaned into that space, I mean, it's crazy the stuff that's happened in 1 week. Like the universe has just opened up for them, like just immediately. Like, all right, you want to do this? Here's your interview. You want to do this? Like, and so, I mean, I guess I'm in this testing space also to see how this goes.
You should.
But I feel super excited about it. I feel super excited, like, to see other people, like, just lean into that, be happy, feel the thing, like, stop having to strive so hard to feel the thing somewhere else when it's never gonna, you're not never gonna, like, I'm not saying you can't ever feel happy outside of that, because you can, but I just think there's a certain space, like, that you're lit up when you're doing the thing that your soul wants to do.
Do you think that we have this almost like masochistic tendency to not want to let ourselves be that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you think that's innate in every person? And what the hell kind of what kind of, you know, terrible fortune is that? You know, that we all kind of fight against what comes easiest and makes us happiest.
Happy. I know. It's like we really just don't want to be happy. It's very bizarre that we push against it. But I think we don't have a lot of examples of that. And so that's why it's hard for us to do it. Like if as kids, that's the examples we had, then we would fall into those spaces easier.
Yeah.
But when that's not like the world we're seeing.
That's what I meant with the beginner's mind earlier. Like my kids do what makes them happy at that moment. They don't feel bad about it. They don't feel guilty about anything. They do what makes them feel good then.
Pretty well for them.
It's awesome. And then we get into this space. I don't know when it happens. You know, teenagers, puberty maybe. You know, we start to feel guilty about being happy or fulfilled.
Or that we should always be doing something more. Like instead of being like it's never enough, you know. So we're always adding more things and need more areas to be good at, more space to, and a lot of times we're trying to like follow the path that someone else has already done. So someone else has already done this path, so we're like, oh, we should follow that path too.
That worked.
But I just think like that's their path. This is your path. This is, you know, everybody has like their own separate path. So the more and more we learn to like listen to ourselves. And like, what's the next step, and what's the path, and what's the thing I really want, and what does that look like? And like trusting like the thing you want or the thing you want to show up. Like maybe you want to have a business, but you don't want to post on social media. Like you should trust that that's can happen. Like because if you're like you don't want to do it, then it's like there's probably a reason that's like it's not. That it doesn't have to happen that way.
It's so weird to me that we feel that we're predisposed to like square peg round holing. You know,
we
our whole life.
So trying to fit into every, like, and maybe I'm sure I guess it's always been like this, but now we see it even more like with social media. So we see it like a trend happens and then everybody starts doing the trend, you know, or the like. I mean, that's basically what TikTok is, right? Somebody does a dance and then everybody does the dance, and then I'm not. Actually
and then they're all
TikTok,
famous.
So yeah.
Well, you're missing an opportunity. I'll tell you that right now.
Maybe I'll get on there after this.
What else? What else do you have coming up that's exciting you?
So I do really love doing development with Pop Fizz. I think it's like.
What's that? Tell us what that is. I mean, I know what it is. I think.
Yeah, you work there, so. So I guess historically, Pop Fizz has mostly done creative content that you've been hired to do.
Sure.
And so the
commercial work.
Right, commercial work, you know, like whatever, like people, someone comes to say, we need this.
Agency stuff.
We need this commercial, we need this video, we need this whatever, you know, or, and with the development team, so there's 4 of us on there, we're basically trying to create our own content and get it out into the world and get shows on TV. And I love it. I love like trying to come up with ideas. I love like looking into that space. I think even in that space, I mean, I'm the only girl on the team, but like also I think I just function in a way that like the way I want to look at it is like I can read the energy behind this behind this show and like
read the impact that it's going to have.
Yeah, and I can feel like with this one, like just certain things will feel good, so, whatever. Yeah. But it's kind of hard to break into those spaces too.
It's super crowded. And
right.
it's legacy too.
Yeah.
Like the people that have been doing it forever, especially with linear broadcast stuff.
And it's an interesting year because like so much content is being consumed, but also production is harder. So like in places that the networks are, like New York and LA, a lot of like productions shut down completely. So a lot of networks are not even wanting to buy a lot of stuff. I mean, or buy stuff that would be hard to shoot during COVID.
Right. So they're licensing stuff.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah.
They're taking stuff from Europe. They're getting stuff that's succeeded elsewhere and licensing it for American audiences. Repackaging
right or like doing stuff like Box of Crazy that guys that
which can all be done remotely, right
that you can shoot in a like COVID safe way.
And so, people's threshold, sorry to cut you off, people's threshold for taking in that kind of content even on a television is much higher now. That they're willing to watch a Zoom and say that's television instead of watching $1 million episode of CSI Miami or whatever it is. The threshold of quality has met Zoom at some point, and this digital what's kind of stood for what's kind of been doable on digital is now kind of acceptable on broadcast too.
And I think like I don't want to be reminded about COVID when I'm watching TV. Like I don't want to see like Zoom shows, or I don't even want to see people wearing masks on commercials. I mean, unless it's a commercial to wear masks.
Right.
But like I don't want to.
That's why I have done continue to do the podcast in person and just gone to extra lengths to make it safe, 6 feet apart, plexiglass and all that, is because when I listen to a phone conversation between two people on a podcast that 2 years ago when I listened to it was people talking face to face, it reminds me immediately that I'm in the era, where they don't feel comfortable being in the same room together. And so it almost is that it's nice to
be pulled out of it for a little bit. I mean, that's why we watch TV,
or to not be pulled into it.
Yeah, we watch TV mostly to escape reality. Yeah. And so
it's an escapism behavior. Yeah.
Which is fine. I think we all need
I think so too. I mean, it's why the whole industry's here.
Yeah. So that's basically it. Let's talk about Charlie's comment about
cult prone.
About me being cult prone. So which I wanted to get a T-shirt, but I didn't have enough time that said cult prone on it.
Yeah. And, so Charlie Debevoise was here a few weeks ago, and we, I forget, he mentioned a tantric sex cult, and I was like, do you know Rebecca Ridner? Yeah. He was like, was she in a tantric sex cult? It's like, it was a regular cult.
Oh. It would be so much more interesting if I had been in a tantric sex cult.
I'm sorry it wasn't. I'm sorry it was a regular cult.
I know. It was just oppressive for women cult.
Oppressive for women cult? Is that what you said? Yeah. Is there like some lines blurred there? Like, because I can imagine that people that are in that still would never call it that. But you being out of it do. Oh. So it has to bleed over to where it's real life for a lot of people.
Me talking about it. So it was interesting. Like I
had hundreds of people reach out to me that were like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I had a bunch of people reach out to me, people I knew or didn't know, like sharing their own story.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think people just want to be heard, and so like it gave people a space to. And so some people that had been in that, been there, and I'm sure people that are still there, like. They heard it or heard about it are probably offended by that word, which is fine. This is my experience. That's their experience. But then I had people that aren't there anymore. A lot of them that reached out were like, hey, thanks for sharing that, and sharing it in a way that I feel like I shared it that wasn't like too...
you gave your experience.
Gave my experience without being, too aggressive. So, but I think it was healing for me too. Like I feel like
really?
Being able to do that...
You hit me up the next day and you weren't sure.
Oh, I definitely felt like what did I call it?
Vulnerability hangover.
I had a vulnerability hangover, yes.
That's what you said.
So, but I was so glad. I mean, I wasn't prepared at all to share that when I sat down. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like you said, I've had people talk about it. You've had people talk about it. People say that it was helpful for them or healing. So, I'm super glad to be able to share it. I feel almost weirdly removed from that time now. Now I'm just into like other weird stuff.
Yeah,
So
seemed like a lifetime ago.
yeah, I mean, it is. I guess we kind of all live like different lifetimes within our life, and so that was like one of my lifetimes in this life.
Well, and you fortunately got to live that. I mean, fortunately and unfortunately, it happened when you were young.
Yeah.
And so you
Very
you,
impressionable.
But you got into a second act pretty quick,
Yeah.
you know?
So, yeah. But Charlie, so Charlie and
Cult prone.
Yeah, called me cult prone. He said, "I love Rebecca, but she's cult prone."
He said she. Yep, I see it. Cult prone.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe these psychics, maybe my psychic from New York has another cult for me to join.
Would you do it?
I think I'm pretty leery now about having anybody outside of myself tell me what to do. Like, that's
See, I
why
think that is part of what some people might see as an overcorrection. That is really the probably best thing you got out of that.
I definitely overcorrect in that way. I have a really hard time letting people help me now.
Really?
Like give me input or like anything because I'm so there's a lot of like spaces in that I guess I probably, I mean, my mantra for a while was don't tell me what to do. Like, don't tell me what to do.
That's probably a healing thing.
Yeah. I mean, in my marriage, it probably wasn't super helpful, but,
It's all that Zyrtec you were taking.
all the Zyrtec. Talked about that just the other day. I was like looking for some allergy medicine, and I was like, can't take Zyrtec. It makes me going to get divorced. But then I'm already here, so here we are. Yeah. Oh, so well, I guess another thing that I don't know how much time we have left, but like, so Charlie, I know him and his wife Celia because I helped decorate their house.
Oh, cool.
So I'm actually like, also I'm trying to like, with production being low and whatever, trying to figure out different things to do. So I'm starting to do some more design work again.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Good.
Gonna put that out into the world.
You have the best style.
Thank you.
It's legit.
Well, thanks. I feel like for me, I think like, I mean, a designer can like come in and make their house look like them. And I really like to come in and make someone's house feel like you, like it should be like a reflection of your soul, but
Sure.
like a curated, elevated space, but like it should like come in and make you feel happy.
Yeah.
It should be the photo on the wall that makes you feel good, the painting that makes you feel
Sure.
good.
The stuff you can spend time around, but you also feel grateful to have it.
Right.
You also feel like it's a little bit outside of you.
Right. Well, like just like feel like it should still feel like you and not like feel like the designer that did it. I mean, I mean, from my perspective,
it should feel like
different
you
people have
did
different
it
design
yourself.
things.
But you should also be grateful to have it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel
It should be
when
like
good design
somebody
happens.
helped you and it looks
Yes.
really good and curated and whatever, but like
And
it
did it
feels
way
good,
better than I could
but
have.
it feels so good when you walk in because it feels like, I don't know. I just think that it should like reflect your soul. Your house should reflect your soul. So, which is an interesting thing to do.
Wait, maybe that's what you're doing. Maybe you just got 5 new interior design clients with your coffee dates last week.
So I have this. Show idea. It's called design therapy.
I thought it was called Coffee and a Makeover.
Coffee and a makeover. Yes. No, for real. I have it I mean, I don't know if I should be talking about this because it's just on paper right now. But so basically, like a designer who also like helps you in this like therapy space. And so like if there's like 2 people moving in together, you like help them
Sure.
like work through those spaces and stuff. Because like my favorite part is the talking to someone, like understanding them, understanding what they love, understanding that space. So if I can combine those 2 loves,
That makes sense.
that
The pre-pro
I
part
don't know
of it.
I don't know that people are gonna like hire me to do design therapy. I feel like if I put an ad out for that, people will be like, what?
I think it's
What
got
the
a
hell
ring
is
to
that?
it. I mean, Marie Kondo, had a good moment,
Yeah.
by making people's lives better while, cleaning them up a little
tidying
bit.
things up.
Sure. Design therapy sounds great. And I think the public is ripe for it right now.
Everybody needs some therapy. They're like, a
Yeah.
therapist and a decorator. What? Designer? Like, let's
Be crazy
sign me
not
up.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Rebecca,
yes.
one more year. You're going to come back?
If you'll have me back. Was this
Have
good? Is this okay?
It's great. It's exactly right.
I'll probably be even more weird next year. It would be amazing.
I'm probably going to pay you for the therapy session.
Be in another cult.
Do it.
All right.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah.